All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. How's everybody tonight? I'm going to get into a subject that's a little touchy to everyone. It's about this moon theory that we use the moon to start um, the month or the year. And it's biblically proven that it is not accurate to use the moon for either of those. The head of the year is March 17th. It's the day after the day of equal parts. It's the day that never changes from creation up till now, and you can look 600 years into the future on time and date and see that it will always happen on March the 16th. So it's something I discovered a few years ago, and I decided to build a timeline based on that concept. And everything I have found fits perfectly on the timeline, even down to when Lazarus died on March the 16th, why Jesus sat still for 2 days, and why he walked for those 2 days and resurrected Lazarus, just like the Bible says, on the fourth day. He was dead for 4 days. Why Mary and Martha, why Jesus didn't have a meal with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus until the eighth day, because Mary and Martha were unclean because they buried Lazarus on the 17th, and they were unclean until the day before they had this meal for 7 days, which you will also find in Leviticus. And so let me get into the pictures, and it's a little research. Anybody wants to figure this out, it's just a little research to see these details. March 16th is called a kaseh. It's an appointed time or a time appointed. One is spelled Kehceh, and the other one is over here on Kehseh, and it is on September the 14th. September the 14th is the day before the day of the previous head of the year before the flood. Remember, God said in Exodus 12, this now is the head of your year. That is the Feast of Trumpets. I didn't know when I started building the timeline and going down and doing the months as they are set, day by day, sun comes up, it gets a name. I did not know that it would land there. I did not know that the flood would land on October the 31st, Halloween. November the 1st at nightfall becomes November the 1st. I didn't know that 150 days after the flood, just like it says in the Bible, that 150 days the water began to recede. And when I counted that, I did not know it would land directly on the cross. I didn't know that when they found when Mary found out that she was pregnant, she went to see her cousin Elizabeth. And in the story of Elizabeth, you see that she had hid herself for 5 months. And in the 6th month of her hiding, not the 6th month of the year, but the 6th month of her hiding, she comes out to meet Mary, and John leapt in the womb. 3 months later, we find that here, 150 days later, 3 months, or did I do that wrong? I did that wrong. From the flood, no. She became pregnant on, yeah, I did that wrong. Christmas night, December the 25th. Back in 3 BC or 4 BC, depending on the 0 year, I believe that Hanukkah lined up with Christmas, just like it does in 2024. Hanukkah and Christmas actually both line up on December the 25th because they're still using the moon. They're still worshiping the moon. So 150 days, or again, back to the 3 months after this, look up at the top, Mary conceives. She, she would have been pregnant for 40 weeks, which lands perfectly on Tabernacles. I didn't know that was going to happen either. As I put all of these times onto the timeline, they fit. If you use the moon, none of this will fit. You would have to argue about the 150 days. You would have to argue about uh, Elizabeth being pregnant for 6 months, and 3 months later, it lands perfectly on the cross. Two events land on the cross from when Mary went to see her cousin Elizabeth and John leapt in the womb, lands on the cross 3 months, and also from the flood beginning, 150 days later, the water began to recede. And then the Bible tells in the 7th month and the 17th day of that month, the ark landed. on Mount Ararat, which we learned from Dr. Barry means reverse the curse. This is the day that Jesus rose. So it locks in, it ties in perfectly. So where are we at right now? And then I will go on to show you how they have mistranslated, and it's almost lazy that that honestly that people who research the Bible as diligently as they do won't stop for a moment and take a look at what the word kaseh means, what the word yarich and selin mean, and what the word chodesh means. And when you find it in Strong's and it's numbered, they try to cross it over and say, well, yeah, it does say chodesh, it does mean new moon, new month, but we're going to call it the new moon. It's almost, to me, it's almost lazy to do that because God's the same today, tomorrow, and forever. March the 16th is the same today at creation and all the way up to the end of the 1,000 years. It never changes, ever. It always happens on March the 16th. If that wasn't important and we were supposed to use the moon would line up. If the sun were that important, the sun wouldn't move one constellation every 2,160 years, telling this beautiful story that God has presented to us in the heavens. The only thing that never changes is the shadow on that sundial will be its shortest on March the 16th every single year, always. We are right now over here. Today is January the 25th. January the 25th is 11/11. This is, and I was watching, I'll get to his, I've got his YouTube at the end. I never remember, it's Patrick, but sorry, Patrick, I never remember the name of your YouTube, but I actually took a picture this time and I'll show you who that is. And he's been working on the relationship between even numbers, 11/11 and 3/16, because God moved the head of the year from September 15th to March the 17th. You have a moment in time where it's equal on both sides. And that's what Patrick has been working on. I really like his work on that and his open-mindedness to take a look at all of this. So today, almost over with now, is 11/11. The next event up is Shavat 15. To be Shavat. To be simply means the middle of the month. Shavat means Festival of Trees. Shavat 15 will always happen on Shavat 15. When I do the timeline starting on March the 17th, it will always land on January the 29th. 30 days later, they are to celebrate this 30 days before Purim. Purim will always land 30 days before the cross, always. So Purim, this year, because of the extra day that we have February the 29th, Purim will land on February the 29th. And 30 days after that will be the cross, which is always, the anniversary of the cross is always on March 30th. It never changes. It doesn't budge. It can't budge because of this. And if you do math from anybody else's timeline, anybody's, I don't care whose it is, if you do the 150-day math from whatever day they decide to call the flood, I don't care what day they decide to call the flood. If they say, if they're honest to themselves or with themselves, and they're honest with this 150 days, and they say, well, next year the flood will start on November the 11th, let's say. If they count 150 days from November the 11th, that would mean that they would have to land on the cross. And if they go into the date, they will find it will not match the 150 days. No weather timeline exists out there that matches the 150 days. Even Michael Shabbat, I've watched his YouTube. He starts his year on March the 22nd. He's using the equinox, which, by the way, changes by a whole day over a variety of years. It goes from the 19th to 20th, 21st. It jumps around. It doesn't stay solid. March the 16th never changes, but by a few hours, but it always lands at some point on March the 16th. And I'll show you that in Stellarium. So There is no, and Michael Shabbat, to his credit, he's done a lot of work. The guy, it looks like he knows what he's talking about. He sits back, he's all, and no, nothing against him. I would never talk bad about anybody who's done a lot of research, but I would challenge Michael Shabbat, who has, I don't know how big his YouTube is. Uh, I subscribe to him, but I don't watch a lot of his stuff because I get frustrated with using the moon, and it doesn't make sense to me. So I would challenge him that whatever date he decides the flood is, he must count 150 days. If he doesn't land using his timeline on the cross, if he doesn't land there, then he's wrong. And I would challenge him to take a look. I would challenge any timeline out there to go from the flood and land on the cross. You all can go out right now and do your own research and look into it yourselves and say, well, the Jews say that this was the date of the flood. And they do. They say this year the flood happened on October the 31st or November the 1st. When you count 150 days, you will land squarely on March 30th. But they're going to say that Passover this year is on April the 22nd, 23rd. How did they do that? Where are those 23 days coming from? Where did they come from? Because that is not biblical. And being biblical and using the Bible to the best of our ability, nobody's perfect, but use it to the best of your ability. Reason amongst yourselves and say, he's right. Those 150 days must land on the cross. They must. And if we're using a timeline that doesn't land there, what do we do? So I'm going to prove to you that in the Bible, the word Chodesh simply means month. Yarich and Selene simply mean moon. And Kaseh simply means, one means time appointed and the other one means appointed time. And I'll show all that to you here in a moment. So right here is where we are right now. Tu B'Shavat, the 15th of Av. This year, and I don't know how they did it, because Tu B'Shavat is supposed to land 30 days before Purim. I have no idea how they came up with Purim being on March the 25th. I know that they looked at Tu B'Shavat to happen on the 25th of January. So therefore, they would have to, just based on their own understanding of this feast, they would have to land on February 25th for Purim, but they don't. They are adhering to that 30 days out from the Passover, which they're calling on March the 23rd. So they're using February, I'm sorry, April 23rd. So they're using March 22nd or 23rd for Purim. But wait a second. Tu B'Shavat, the Festival of Trees, is supposed to happen 30 days before Purim, but it doesn't. It's supposed to happen on February the 22nd or 23rd in order for Festival of Trees, in order for Purim to land on March and then for Passover to land on April. But they didn't do that. They uh, celebrated the Festival of Trees this year on January the 25th, which is today. But I'm telling you that the Festival of Trees does not happen until January the 29th. The same thing happens, and it drives me nuts. Kislev 24, it is past. Well, let's stretch out Hanukkah and move it over to here. No, let's move it over to there. No, they were wrong, but they're all jumping to every single timeline that they can to try to justify a date. I'm going to show you that as well. It does not say that an event will take place on Kislev 24. It says in that day, meaning it's going to happen in that day. But there is a passage for 1124. Now remember last year, this is not in the Bible, but last year they were saying, and I thought it was a big enough event, they were saying on Shavat 24, February 7th, that, and I didn't, I only put it on here because I thought, hey, this is kind of a huge event. I normally only put biblical events on here. But I have a few things that lined up. So the course spinning backwards last year was a huge event. So I said, there's nothing on that date. Let me put it there. And then that white balloon the Chinese sent across our country that Biden wouldn't shoot down, just let it go on across the entire country. That also happened on that date. So I said, that's weird. and I put it down. Not found in the Bible, but I put it there. But I'm so glad that I did, because Shavat 24 is um, the 11th month and the 24th day. And that is spoken of in the Bible. That date is very specific. And it says on that day that he saw amongst the myrtle trees a red horse. Is that the day that tribulation will begin? That one of the seals are open, that one of the horses have ridden, and that the event has already taken place. Could it be, and this is me surmising, I don't know, I just given a date, but Shavat 15, the Festival of Trees, on January the 29th, 8 days later, we land on Shavat 24. I find it, those 8 days are important. I find in Shavat 24 that the red horse is already here. So for me, a very high watch day, not saying it's the rapture, but a very high watch day is Shavat 15, January 29th. The jumping around of calendar. I don't like this calendar, so I'm going to jump to that calendar. I don't like this calendar, I'm going to jump to that calendar. Kislev 24 was a huge stepping stone. It was very important, but it was not the rapture date. And I'll show you that here in a second. To be Shavat, known as the New Year of Trees, is the first stage of this process, the process of being 30, 30, and 30. It occurs on the 15th of the Jewish month Shavat, 30 days prior to Purim. 30 days. Now you tell me. They are recognizing today as the Festival of Trees. Today is January the 25th. Are they recognizing February the 25th as Purim, just like it says here? And the answer is no. They are not going to recognize Purim uh, in February. They're going to recognize it in March, the 23rd or 24th, something like that. So there's a whole 30 days that they're skipping for their timeline. And for my timeline, they're skipping, if I say it's on the 29th, and they're skipping about 23 days on my timeline. I don't know where they came up with those 23 days. Starting from the day of Purim, which is 30 days before Passover, once you start teaching and learning the laws of the holidays. So Purim is 30 days before Passover. The Festival of Trees must be 30 days before Purim. You see where they're going wrong. So what we're doing, or what I am attempting to do, and I've been doing this for a long time, and yes, I get flack on this, but it's okay. I believe it is accurate. I believe that that's why I made this entire YouTube and this timeline, and I believe that I can prove. I mean, people can come along and say, it's not right. You can say it's not right, but you need to find me a verse in the Bible that says it's not right. I had somebody, of course, go up against me saying, well, Elizabeth, your timeline's wrong because Elizabeth says right here in the 6th month. I said, read one verse back and tell me what it says. Oh, she hid herself for 5 months. And in the 6th month of her hiding, not the 6th month of the year, the 6th month of her hiding, John leapt in the womb. When Mary came around, she was 1 week pregnant. And that also shows us that a baby is a baby from conception, not from whenever they decide the heart beats and after so many days. No, a baby is a baby from conception. The Bible says in Psalms 90:12, teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Return, O Lord, how long? And let it repent thee concerning thy servants. Now, this is a passage of somebody who God is telling, if you want to know when I'm coming back, you need to learn to number your days. And we're asking, how long? We would, again, not have an exact rapture date, not until we see something major that really points us to it as clear as a bell. But at this point, we're going from stepping stone to stepping stone, getting across that creek or that river, that raging river, stone by stone, and we're coming along as we go. This is what I was telling you about, and I want you to pay close attention to the language. And again, the word of the Lord came unto Haggai in the 24th day of the month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. He's telling them on this day that he's going to do something. He is not doing it on this day. The 24th day of the was it ninth month has already passed. It's over with. It's gone. It was a stepping stone. We're not going to continue to stretch out the calendar to serve our uh, personal needs as to being right about something. We can't do that. We have to let the Bible speak for itself. Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, and I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, I will take thee. What day? It will be the day where he comes against them and he will overthrow them. What day is that? It's at some point after 924. Could it be the Festival of Trees? I don't know, but we're studying. We do see a very clear cut date of February the 7th as being the day that the 11th month, the 24th day, as being the day they saw the red horse amongst the myrtle trees. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, I will take thee, O Zerubbabel, my servant, son of Shealtiel, saith the Lord, and will make thee as a signet, for I have chosen thee, saith the Lord of hosts. So I went to it among the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month Shevat. In the 2nd year of Darius came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees. So he has a vision or a dream, and he sees this red horse on this day. Could this be the day, or is this yet another day of, on this day, he saw something into the future? I don't know. It looks more like a solid day to me. And then said I, O my Lord, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show thee what these be. And the man stood among the myrtle trees, answered and said, These are they whom the Lord hath sent to walk to and fro through the earth. We recognize that as being the angels that are cast out of heaven, the demons that are cast out of heaven. When God asks Satan, hey, Satan, what's up? What you doing? Satan goes, going to and fro, walking back and forth through the earth. The same thing here. And they answered the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees and said, We have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all the earth sitteth still and is at rest. All right, now I'm going to get into this full moon or sliver of the moon. Many churches of God teach and believe that the full moon has a role in God's calendar. They claim that the 15th of Abib and the 15th of Tishri must always fall on the full moon. They also claim that the Judaic rabbinical calendar of Hillel has been designed to ensure that this will always occur and is thus the correct holy day calendar. These claims need to be examined critically to see what basis they have and if the claim perfection of the rabbinical calendar in this respect is true. This paper will examine these claims and show that the full moon has no role in God's calendar and that the rabbinical calendar does not consistently place the above holy days on the full moon. As a matter of fact, I personally will tell you that the moon does line up properly with the first 6 months or the last 6 months, like it did this year, every 19 years. So this year, this last 6 months, since September, this timeline that I've made does line up because it is a 19-year cycle with the moon, but it only does it every 19 years. All right. When I first heard of the claim that the full moon must occur on the 15th of Abib and Tishri, I searched the King James translation of the Bible using both the online Bible software and Strong's Concordance and was not able to find one single reference to the moon, let alone a reference which says that the two dates above must occur on the full moon. Evidently, I discovered the claim is based on a different translation of Psalms 81:3, and King James translated this verse as from the online Bible, blow up the trumpet in the new moon. They translated new moon. It is not. But to King James' credit, they also added in the time appointed. So they put both in there, in the new moon and in the time appointed. What it should say is blow up the trumpet in the new month, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. What is a solemn feast day? It's the head of the year. It's the only two uh, feasts that are celebrated at the head of the year. It used to happen on September the 15th until Exodus 12 when God says, move it back. Now, this is the word kaseh. Why is it a hidden day? It's a time appointed, but why is it a hidden? Kaseh also means hidden day. Why is it hidden? Because it was moved from September the 15th to March the 17th. And the people have not adhered to that. They're still looking to September as being the time that you change the year. This is not 5784 yet. It will not be 5784 until March 17th. On March 17th, it will become 5784. We are now currently in 5783 and 2024. For 75 days and 18 hours, the Gregorian calendar will change us to 2024. And 75 days and 85 hours later, the Hebrew calendar, because of Exodus 12, will change to 5784 on March 17th. This is what my friend Spinebreaker found, and I made that video in his stead for him so the information could get out there because he had proven that the rapture, in fact, will occur in 2024. My personal opinion is it will happen at some point between the Gregorian head of the year and the Hebrew head of the year, between January 1st and March the 17th, at some point in there. And quite frankly, the last day is March 16th. And that is what Patrick is looking at very intently. I personally don't want to go that far out quite yet. I'm still looking at January the 29th, the Festival of Trees. All right. Let's see here. The Strong's number are in brackets. Those favoring the full moon theory change time appointed and read full moon. Why did they change it? It's not the right number. Full moon has a number in Strong's. Why did they change it to full moon when it says time appointed? The appointed time was September the 15th. It changed to March the 17th, exactly 182 days earlier. Exactly the center, an 11/11 event, just like Patrick is looking at. He's doing a very good job and he's really digging this out, claiming that this is the correct translation. So in Strong's, you will see that it says moon, but it'll give you the correct number for Kaseh instead. Why are they confused? It's like mixing, two different colors. I mean, one's blue, one's green, but when you mix them, blue and green, what do you get? Yellow out of that? I don't even, oh no, blue and yellow make green. So you have a blue one, you have a yellow one, but you mix them and suddenly you have a green one. You were not supposed to do that. Kaseh is not the same as moon. Some support is given to this idea by the New King James Version, which translated it as full moon in this verse. Kaseh is only used twice in the Bible. It is only used on March the 17th and September the 15th, where it is translated this way in the King James Version. He hath taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. Instead, you've seen some translations will say moon. The time appointed on the day appointed, 3677, is the word kaseh. It is not the word moon. This time, the New King James Version agrees with the King James Version. The translation problem here is two differing proposed derivations of kaseh or kaseh. See how you have the two different spellings. The full mooners, like the one which claims kaseh means fullness, and it does not, it means hidden, and it means time appointed, and comes from kasa, Strong's 3680, which means to cover or conceal. The implication is that the moon is covered or concealed with light. This dubious suggestion is further weakened by the simple fact that the moon, and here's the actual translation for the moon, Yarich, and it's also Selene in Greek, and one's in Greek, one's in Hebrew. So Yarich and Selene, Strong's 3394, is never mentioned. It never, if it was the moon, why didn't it say 3394 in Strong's? Why didn't it say that? Because it's not the moon. It has nothing to do with the moon. Wilson, Old Testament Word Studies, page 18 says this: the most probable derivation is from kasak, to number, to reckon. And so it refers to specially appointed feast as the Passover and Feast of Tabernacles. Wilson's derivation matches with the King James Version and fits well with the use of appointed, meaning that the correctly determined date. This translation, in the case of Psalms 81:3 particularly, is confirmed by Numbers 10:10, which specifies that in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and in the beginnings of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets. That is, all the times Psalms 81:3 says, blow the trumpets, agree with Numbers 10:10. So they will not only blow trumpets on the Feast of Trumpets, but because God moved it back to March the 17th, they will blow trumpets on New Year's Day of March 17th. This is now the head of your year. So we see that kaseh in Psalms 81:3 need not and almost certainly does not mean fullness, and most definitely does not say fullness of moon. Now, this is somebody else's research. I'm not the only one finding this. There are others who have actually done their research and have figured out that the moon has no play in the head of the year, has no play in, whoops, did that wrong. Let's see. Let me go on here. I think I messed something up. Hit the wrong button. All right, I'll just go on with the Bible, and I'm going to show you everywhere. Now, there are the word uh, that they're translating the moon is actually to say it is used 9 times, and I'll show you that here. Behold, tomorrow is the new moon. Remember, this is the conversation between David and Jonathan. And it says, behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king at meat, but let me go, that I may hide myself in the field unto even the 3rd day. Now, of course, this is a reference to Jesus being in the grave for 3 days, and he is not talking about the new moon. He is talking about the new year, the Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. Tomorrow is the new year. We go into Strong's Concordance. David said unto Jonathan, behold, tomorrow is the new moon. H2320. H2320. Let's look at that. H2320 means Chodesh. Chodesh, and of course, Strong's has been tainted by this concept of the moon, but they cannot clarify why they would use the moon when it's the word Chodesh. And you can see in their translation that it is month. King James Version usage, month, 254 times. And they chose, for some reason, to put moon there because what happened in 400 BC, they forced the new moon calendar on the Jews. And this was written after 400 BC, so they got stuck with it. And it's been stuck with them for a long time. Now I want to show you a verse where it actually says moon, and let's see how it's translated. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon. Moon is 4582. 4582 in Strong's Concordance would be correct. It is super clear what that is. It is not a appointed time. It is actually the moon under her feet. The word translates in Greek to Selene. The other word, Yarich, is Hebrew. This word here in Greek is Selene. And it goes on down there, King James Version uses this moon translation 9 times. And I'll show them all to you. So if this is actually the moon, but they had to respect what the Bible said about the appointed time as not being the moon, there, or the Torah said a different number. They could not they could not specifically use the moon. They had to use appointed time. Blow at the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast days, New Year's Day. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, 2320. This is not the same number that we just saw for Selene. We just saw a different number. We saw a number for Selene as being 4582. This number here is 3677. What is 3677? It's Chodesh. It's month. It's the new month. It's not the new moon. It's the new month. It's used 254 times and it is translated incorrectly. 3677 is the word kaseh. Remember, we read back here, it said, in the time appointed, 3677. That was actually the correct. In the new month, in the appointed time, 3677. That's the word kaseh. They will say that this means the moon, fullness of the moon, or the hidden moon, but it also says time appointed. That's actually the correct translation, time appointed. For the good man is not home. He is gone on a long journey. He hath taken a bag of money with him, and will come home on the day appointed. Remember how they keep going back and forth between day appointed and appointed day. For the good man is not at home. He is gone on a long journey. He hath taken a bag of money with him, and he will come home at the day appointed. 3677. 3677 is that same word kaseh, and it means appointed time. They would try to associate it with the moon, but the moon has no bearing whatsoever on it. Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies. Now, even God here says, I'm tired of your new moons, and he allows for this translation to happen. Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons, 2320, 2320, it means Chodesh. It does not mean moon. But God is upset that they're using the moon. It clearly says it right there. All right, here's the 9 times that the word is used correctly. The moon is used correctly here 9 times. Selene is the name for it. Matthew 24:29. Be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. That would be a correct translation. Mark 13:24. Shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Luke 21:25. In the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and upon. correct translation. Acts 2:20, darkness, and the moon into blood. These are actual translations. 4582, actual correct translations for the moon. And this is the actual word for the moon, 4582. To use another number or another word for the moon would be irresponsible. And to not dig this out and figure this out is, in my opinion. Now, here's the number for Yarich. Greek, Hebrew definitions. Remember the other ones in Greek. Yarich is in Hebrew. Its Strong's number is 3394. We did not see 3394 anywhere in relation to when it said Chodesh or Kaseh. I saw this on GevT. It was really interesting. I would say go watch this on GevT, Gevte. He's saying the real Esther story, which I find very telling that the dates, and I haven't verified this, but the solar and lunar eclipses of the year 479 BC are mirroring what's going to happen here in 2024. I think we're gone before March the 25th myself. But Passover is on March the 30th. It begins just 5 days after this moon eclipse. So I guess we'll see this lunar eclipse. Whoops. All right. Now, algenib. I get a little bit of a ribbon about this, but I want to show you something. On March the 16th in 2024, algenib is on the 20 degree. The sun, you see the line right there? That's the outline of Pisces. That line is an imaginary line that encompasses Pisces on the inside of. And once you reach that line, you are now in Aquarius. It is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. This will happen. It hasn't happened yet. You can see it right there. It's before that imaginary line that they've mapped out to be around Pisces. You see it here on March the 16th, 2024. But go here to March the 16th of 2031, and it touches the line. It is now the age of Aquarius. 2031 is when we believe that the 1,000-year millennium will begin. Will it begin on March the 16th? I don't know. But it's very telling that that is actually the age of Aquarius. 3031, 1,000 years. It has gone through the water. By March 16th, it's gone through the water. Other programs actually show it completely through the water. During that 1,000 years, it will be going through the water, go into town, find a man bearing a pitcher of water, and rent the upper room. That is what that passage is talking about. March the 16th is the last day of the year. And again, we find algenib right there at the 20 degree mark on the same day. 2024, on February the 29th, which is the Purim. February the 29th, Purim. We see that the sun is almost in this same exact spot as it will be at the end of the millennium, at the end of the 1,000 years. I find it very telling that it's there right now on February the 29th. Purim, 30 days from Passover. So we have a lot of high watch days coming up. January the 29th, February the 29th, and March the 30th. We have a lot of high watch days coming up, 3 of them. There he is, End Time Watchman. Sorry, I can never remember that. There's so many Watchman channels, and I keep forgetting Patrick. I apologize, but he is looking at March the 16th, and he's doing a lot of work showing the relationship on March the 16th as being an 11/11 type thing. Like maybe we weren't supposed to be looking at Shavat 11, the 11th month and 11th day, or November the 11th, the 11th month and 11th day. Maybe we're supposed to be finding a date that perfectly fits back and forth, kind of like January the 11th did with all the blood moons and the solar eclipses. That one worked out really nice, but here we are. Here we are past that. So there is It's a hint, it's a clue, it's something to be searched for. There is something that we're going to find. The closer we get, we're going to dig this out. There's something that we're going to find that will show us that um, the date will be a mirror date on both sides. So, all right, I wanted to do that video to prove that out. If and I'm not asking anyone to believe me, go search for it for yourself. You can Google all of the translations of the numbers in Strong's and see for yourself. It's simply not correct. And I, I don't like using the term lazy, but if you rail against it, prove it. Don't just say it. Prove it. Go into the Bible and prove one single passage that will go against the timeline, that will say, no, the 150 days doesn't land on the cross, or no, the flood wasn't here. But if I can say it does land on the cross, and if I can say 30, 30, 30 is the distance between the Festival of Trees, Purim, and Passover, and then you can't use, you've got to be able to tie it together with the flood and say 150 days later, it does land on March 30th. But if we move Purim out 23 days and we wind up Passover 23 days too late, you got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Why are they changing time? I showed you, they just did it. It was in line, but they just did it today. Today was the first day that they changed time. Everything was in line since the Feast of Trumpets, September the 17th, 15th, September the 15th, all the way up until the Festival of Trees, which they called on January the 25th. It is actually January the 29th. Purim is actually February the 29th, and Passover is actually March the 30th, March the 29th. So it is 30, 30, 30. It's exactly perfect, just like the Bible says. And if you find anything, just nicely say, look, what about this passage? This does this, and we can work on it. And if the timeline's wrong, I'll throw it out. But so far, 4 years into working on this timeline, all I can hear is, well, Google tells me it's this day, so that's right. That's not a good argument. I'm going to need some biblical proof that it's wrong. I'm going to need some I'm going to need some passages that say this happened on this date that show that that Lazarus did not die on March the 16th, that he died some other day. When I say Jesus sat still for 2 days, I'll give you an explanation why he did. It's because it was Rosh Hashanah, it was the New Year. When I say that Mary and Martha, that Jesus had a meal with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and we ask ourselves, he raised him on the fourth day. Why did he wait 4 more days to have this meal? Simple. Mary and Martha were unclean for 7 days. They couldn't have a meal with Jesus. So there's more, it stacks on top of itself more and more. It's very light proof, but as it stacks, it gets heavier and heavier. It's a thousand feathers, but it's all there. And I just challenge anybody to, and of course, it's always good to study your Bible. It's always good to go in, and I've done it myself, not in a mean way, but to say, you're wrong, and I can show you why. And the correct response, and the response that I would have if you could show me why would be, wow, that's incredible. I want to study this out to see if you're correct. Otherwise, if you can't, the timeline stands, and the translation of the moon is wrong, and we are not to use the moon for anything to do with the new month of the new year. The moon is there as a harbinger, a warning of things to come. And what amazes me is that this solar eclipse is going to happen on April the 8th, and I think the lunar eclipse was sometime previous to that. Was it March 25th, I think? And so, yeah, because it mirrors the Esther story from 400 something BC, and it happens after the new year. It's almost like the rapture has occurred. Now here comes your warning. And what does God ultimately want? What does he ultimately want? Like I said in the last video, we were all born to go to hell, every single one of us. And yeah, that's tough to hear. But there is only one way not that, to go there. And God knows the end from the beginning. True. He knows everything. And people say, well, then why did he create these two people to go to hell? He didn't. He had always hoped that they would, but he always knew that they wouldn't. But they were going to have a child that would. Do you take them out now? What about that child? You have 2,000 or 6,000 years of history, and you see as God raises up people and brings down people that you have a wicked king, but then his son comes along and he's a great king. And it's just evidence that God had to use the wicked king to get to the one that was going to be saved, the one that would accept that cup. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody. And take that cup and drink from it. Salvation is in that cup. It's been offered to you. And don't let anyone tell you, it's difficult. You got to do this and you got to do that. It becomes a work based gospel if they tell you you have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. The Bible says that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. That's it. You just have to hear it and you have to believe it. You have to know that the planet, we didn't crawl out of a primordial ooze out of a lake somewhere and turn into what we are. No, God created us exactly as we are. We didn't evolve from any kind of a monkey. We are exactly as we are because this is how God created us 6,000 years ago in the garden. We are de-evolving, if anything. We are nowhere near as strong and as intelligent as Adam and Eve were. They had all the the pureness of God's creation. As we tick down to us, it gets worse and worse. So, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And please, I promise you, if you find anything that contradicts anything I've said, any of you, just put it in the comments section and say, you know what? I found this passage and it says that, uh, he died on this date. You're going to have to give me a passage and show me where Lazarus died on a different date than March the 16th. You have to explain to me why Jesus sat still for 2 days. You're going to have to explain to me why Mary and Martha could not have this meal with Jesus until 8 days later. It specifically tells us he has this meal 6 days prior to the cross. We know that meal occurred 6 days prior to the cross. If Lazarus died at any other time, what was the point in waiting until that day? It all falls in, and every single time over the last 4 years, you have no idea the aha moments that came to me as I found a new date. I set it down, and I'm like, does it fit? And it does. I about I about come unglued when I heard about that passage. Somebody showed me that passage and said, "Oh, it says right here in the 6th month." And I saw the passage and I was like, "How could I be that? How could I be wrong? How could I be wrong about when Mary went to see Elizabeth and John left in the womb? 6th month. That's not the 6th month. That doesn't even that's like what is it? December? Isn't that like the 10th month? I think the 10th month. How did I get that wrong by 4 months?" And I went in, I said, let me go look in the Bible, and I studied it. I read the passage before. She hid herself for 5 months. And in the 6th month of her hiding herself, Mary came to her, and John left in the womb, and she was pregnant 1 week with Jesus. So find me a passage. And what's good about it, as you do that, you study. It's not a challenge to prove me wrong. It's not a challenge to discount the timeline. It is a challenge for you to get into the Word of God and become more in tune with what the Bible teaches. And that is all I want is people to get into the Word and study. So, Repo Man 64. I've been watching this guy quite a bit lately. Where is he at? This guy, End Times Talk. I've bbeen joining his lives here lately. He's a prayer warrior. If you've got something going on, I'm not a prayer warrior. He is. If you've got something going on, he holds 3 hour lives, and he talks for 2 or 3 hours. And and a lot of people that are hurt, broken, have issues, will go in there and talk with him. And he's a really great guy. And go in there. And if you have something that you need prayed over, he will pray with you right there. And that I think is amazing. It's phenomenal. His channel is End Times Talk. End Times Talk. Really good guy. I have been subscribed to him for a while. I haven't really listened to a lot of his stuff until lately, and I was like, he's live. Let me go in and listen to him. And I was like, whoa, what have I been missing? So it's really good channel. End Times Talk, and go in there and he'll pray for you. So all right, Repo Man 64. We'll chat with you later. I so want this to happen on the 29th. I really do. The Festival of Trees. I mean, that would be incredible. So we'll chat with you again later.